Are you crazy? Because I know I am, and this is Cardfight Crazy. I am Joey, and in the next step, or the next stop on the tour of end of G Era deck profiles is my Revenger deck. Can't remember if there's one on the channel or not. Don't really care either way, as I am just doing these to document for myself what decks I was playing at the end of G Era. And this is one of my favorite ones, Revengers. I built it 2017 summer randomly, just on a whim, because I saw that Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss was cheap now. And so we added an extra Revenger to the Cardfight Crazy collection. Dom has Revenger Raging Form Dragon, and I got Abyss. And this is a wonderful deck. First things first, let's talk about the Break Ride, because you do want to sit on him for quite a bit. Counterblast 1, when a Shadow Paladin rides this unit, you may pay the cost you do. Choose your Vanguard until end of turn. That unit gets plus 10k. Search your deck for up to 1 grade 2 or less Shadow Paladin. Call its rearguard and shuffle your deck. And that unit gets plus 5k until end of turn. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, he gains 2k. And he's got Lord, but that doesn't matter with Clan Fight. Illusionary, Revenger, Mordred Phantom. Great Break Ride. Very good. Helps you get an extra card on the board for only a CB1. Gives your Vanguard 10. Gives that rearguard 5. Makes a lot of power, makes at least 30k with Phantom Blaster Abyss if you do the Break Ride, then the Legion, which is the great way to go. So, Revenger Phantom Blaster Abyss, yes, I keep trying to put Dragon in there somewhere, but it doesn't actually matter, because it's not in the name. Legions with Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss, and Counterblast 2, and choose 3 your rearguards with Revenger in its card name, and retire them during the turn that this unit Legion, at the end of the battle, that this unit attacked a Vanguard, you may pay the cost you do. Stand all of your Vanguards. This ability cannot be used for the rest of that turn. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, this unit gains plus 2k until end of battle. It's on Vanguard circle. So you do the Break Ride, you go into him, then you get at least a 32, but probably a 37 on your first swing, 39 maybe, and then you'll restand it, then swing 32, 37, 42, you know, depending on your triggers. The Legion is fantastic. The cost is the same as Spectral Blaster. No, not Spectral Blaster. Spectral Duke Dragon. And it was awesome to see Phantom Blaster Dragon get remade into a restander. And for the new series, I'm really wondering what's going to happen with Phantom Blaster Dragon. Because, competitively speaking, Phantom Blaster Dragon wasn't all that great. Shadow Paladins had a lot of problems with retiring their own units, but not really having a hand or any way to survive that. With Revengers, they started retiring their own units in the battle phase more often, and that was, well, less harmful, because you didn't have to call new units to replace the units that you just retired. You just attack with them, then retire them. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with them. Judge Bow Revenger, this is just a perfect starter, really. Got Forerunner, of course. Counterblast 1 and put this unit into your soul. When an attack hits a Vanguard during the battle, this unit boosted a unit with Phantom in its card name. You pay the cost you do. Search your deck for up to 2 grade 1 or less Shadow Paladin. Call them to separate rearguard and shuffle your deck. Note that you don't have to call Revengers, and that's why the typical play, what I play with this deck, is to hit with Judge Bow Revenger, then call the double Sword Break Angels, Soul Blast 2, and draw 2. The trigger lineup, starting with 4 heals, Emancipating Revenger Allele, because it is the when it's dropped for G Guardian, choose itself and another heal from your drop zone, bind them, countercharge 1 or soul charge 1, depending on what you need. Soul charge, usually not the go-to play, but there might be one instance in which you actually need to. I will get to that when I get to the tech card. 6 critical triggers, Grim Revenger and Revenger Air Raid Dragon. They are Revenger crits, so you can sack them if you need to. You have to sack Revengers for the Legion, but you don't have to sack Revengers for the Strides. 4 Revenger draw triggers and 2 Witch draw triggers. I can't remember if there's 2 Revenger draw triggers. I'm pretty sure I'm playing the 2 Witches in here, not just because I really do like them, but because I think there's only 1 set of Revenger draws, and I really wanted to run 6 and 6. With this deck, I thoroughly love 6 draw triggers. There's just something about it that when I Legion, I love to put back a bunch of draws. I'll often Legion returning 4 draws back to my deck exclusively. And that's typically not the first Legion, that's typically the second Legion if it gets to that point. This time I'm not going to go to the grade 1s, I'm going to go to the grade 2s, because they're really quick and simple, and then I got to talk a little bit more about the grade 1s. Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss, Counterblast 1, when it's placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with Revenger in its card name, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's grade 1 or less rearguards and retire it. Ride something. Grade 1. Doesn't matter if you're going first or second. Grade 2, ride something, call Revenger, call him, kill their starter. That's the play. Simple as that. Cost you Counterblast, and Counterblast are a precious resource in this deck, but killing starters is so vital to stopping a lot of decks. Not stopping them completely, but hurting them. And that's great. The more you can do to hurt your opponent, the better it's going to go for you. Blaster Dark Revenger, his counterblast of 2 when he's placed on Vanguard or rearguard. If you have a Revenger Vanguard, you may pay the cost you do. Choose one of your opponent's rearguards in the front row and retire it. Rarely ever gets used. It's just like the original Blaster Blade skill in the Blaster deck for Royals. You don't think about it. And that's fine. Blaster Dark Revenger is here for the countercharge engine, the standard countercharge engine in Revengers. And he does his job well, and he gets sacked. That's his other important piece, is he countercharges and then he dies. There you go, by your hands. 3 Ardroit Revenger Ternion. Or Ternon. It's like, yeah, it's definitely Ternon. I've always said Ternion, because Ternion just sounds really cool to me. But Ardroit Revenger Ternon. Counterblast 1, when you're Vanguard Legion, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your Vanguards until end of turn, it gets the skill that when it attacks a Vanguard, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards and may retire it. If they do not retire a rearguard, they cannot call cards from hand to Guardian Circle. It's the same skill that Phantom Blaster Diablo, there it is, Phantom Blaster Diablo has, except that Phantom Blaster Diablo requires your opponent to retire 2. This, with your Legion, requires them to retire 2 overall. They have to retire 1 at the first attack and then 1 on the second attack. And you can make it a little bit harder with something like Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss. On to the grade 1s this time. Now I run 4 of the Little Skull Witch Domain. It's the Draw PG, so it can guard only your Vanguard, and if there's another copy of her in the drop zone, you draw a card, then drop. I like these because I like seeing more cards. That's why I run the 6 draws, because I just want to see more cards in this deck. There's something about it that seeing more, like a lot of decks, is just often better, especially if you've done your first Break Ride turn, or you've done your Break Ride Legion turn, you want to find your second copy of that Legion and go into it again the second time around. I'll usually do it, or if you need a Stride Fodder, or if you need that 5k shield, or that 10k shield to survive the turn. It's always nice to be able to drop something on your opponent's turn and draw something on your opponent's turn, especially because you do the drawing before the dropping. 2 copies of the 10k attacker Transient Revenger Masquerade. He's a 10k attacker. If you call him out with Judge Bow Revenger, he does come out at rest, then the next turn you stand up, you attack. He's a 10k attacker. Put a 6k behind him, there you go, you get a 16k column. Once again, his most important feature, though, is being a Revenger to get killed. So he can get you a little more damage early game, and then get retired later game. I mentioned, too, Blackwing Swordbreaker. Blackwing Swordbreaker. For some reason, I always want to say Angel in there, but she's not. She's just Blackwing Swordbreaker. This is the card you go with. You hit with Judge Bow, you call both of these, you call them like this, you call them like this, you call them separate, whatever you want. It doesn't matter, they're not going to stay on the field long. Call them, Soul Blast 2, draw 2 cards, then you go into our first Stride target. But before we get to there, 4 of the rest of the traditional countercharge engine Revengers. Barrier Troop Revenger Dorant. When a Blaster Dark Revenger is placed on Vanguard or Rearguard in the same column, countercharge 1. She has to be on Rearguard for that skill to activate. Very useful with said Blaster Dark Revenger. She does make a 16k column, and then you can sack them because they are Revengers. But these 2 come in so clutch. God damn it, I keep hitting the camera. 2 copies of Rain Elemental Tear. In case you don't know, Counterblast 2, when this unit is placed on rear guard, you may pay the cost you do. Choose a card from your damage zone for each face-up Cray Elemental card in your G zone, and turn them face-up. I only run Cray Elemental G Guardians. Speaking of which, there's the 5. Because in the super late game, if you've used like all 4 of these, I started doing this before the countercharging heals came out, and I've just gotten used to it, and it works really well. If you got like, if somehow you have 4 face up, you call him, you Soul Blast 2, and you countercharge 4. That's fantastic. You can't countercharge 5 because none of these flip another one, except, no, actually you do, don't you? No, he does not. None of them flip any of the others, but that's not important. Most of the time you're just going to get 3, but that 3 is all you need, because then you pay 1 for Terranon, and then you pay 2 for Abyss, Phantom Blaster Abyss, to restand, and it's perfect. 2 copies of Rain Elemental Tier, I just really recommend it. I've been playing around with this deck for over a year now, and they don't hurt you as much as you might think, because with the 6 draw, I'm drawing so much, and I'm seeing so many cards that it just doesn't become a problem. You can call over them if you have the ability to, or you can call them into a column with something above it that you're never going to retire. Like I mentioned, the 10k attacker is actually a perfect target to put in front of him, because that's a 16k column, and you don't need to retire that. That's a 16k column. And often it's a grade 1, it can't intercept. Your opponent might not focus on it, except unless it's the only thing on the field, which, you know, that doesn't matter. You can put Terran on there. It really doesn't matter what you do with it. I've found this to be a great system to keep Counterblast coming back, especially in the very late game, when you get that, you know, if it's super long game, you get a 3rd copy, and you need to Legion 1 more time. You write it, you Soul Blast the other copy of him and the mate, and there you go. You countercharge and get your Counterblast back to do 1 more turn with 2 Vanguard attacks, and it is beautiful. I find it to be really reliable, and because of the other countercharging options, you can guard with them, and it doesn't really matter. 5 more G units that are whatever. The only one that I ever actually go into out of these is Animus Pile, and that's 1 time at most if we're both at really low damage and I just want a big number, because Animus Pile gains 5k for each grade 1 card in your drop zone. I never actually mentioned what any of these G cards did. In case you don't know, I'll go back to them in a moment here. Animus Pile gains 5k for every grade 1 card in your drop zone, so long as you have at least 3, so that's a 15k automatically. So long when you reach Ritual 3, but then it keeps going up. Madu, I don't ever use Madu, but it's there, because Madu, when it's placed on Vanguard, if you're a heart card with 10k power or less, choose a grade 3 card from your drop zone and put it into your hand. If you are Legioned, you have a heart that is 9k with Blaster Dark. Revenger Abyss, there you go. And Blizza, 1 copy of Snow Element. Blizza, Counterblast 1, choose a face down card from your G zone, turn it face up. This unit attacks Vanguard, you pay the cost to do. This unit gains plus 5k for each face up card in your G zone until end of turn. Honestly, Blizza and Madu are both in this deck because I needed a home for them, and I really don't use a G zone with Revengers. So they're just in here because they fit. Alright, back to the G cards, because I didn't actually talk about them. In case you don't know, Metal Element Screw, choose a card from your hand and discard it when the unit is placed on Guardian Circle. The number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 1 or more. You may pay the cost. If you do, this unit gains 10k until end of that battle. Discard a grade 3, then that grade 3 all of a sudden at 10k shield. Discard a draw trigger, and that draw trigger gains 5k shield. A grade 2, grade 1, same thing. It's wonderful. Very helpful. Rock Tome, this card is magnificent. Air Element Rock Tome. Choose a card from your hand and discard it. When this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card. Like I said, I just want to see a ton of cards in this deck. I want to keep drawing more. I want a Legion to put some back. Draw triggers, the draw PGs, Rock Tome. Rock Tome is always the first one I go into because it's just a 15k shield and then you drop and draw. Fantastic. And Mixed Element Colburn. I do like the artwork. Reminds me of that Genesis unit. I was like red and blue. It's kind of a thing. I don't remember at all what it was called, but choose a card from your hand and discard it. When the shooting is placed on Guardian Circle during the battle, as your opponent Vanguard attacks you and pay the cost you do. The shooting gains 5k until end of battle for every 2 cards in your opponent's hand. If they got a big hand and a big Vanguard, then you can go into Colburn, and with just 1 more discard, so 2 cards, you can pretty much nullify their attack if they have a giant enough hand. Unfortunately, Colburn is one of those cards that he just tries to save you from a bad situation, but he can't turn the tide of battle. So often, if you're getting the maximum effect out of Colburn, which is essentially nullifying the attack, getting it to a no pass, you could be in trouble to lose, but you never know. You know, hey, if their hand is full of grade 3s and they're not using Dynexus, there you go. 2 copies of Supremacy Black Dragon Aura Geyser Dragon, the first stride. For a lot of Shadow Paladin, but especially for this deck because you do the Judge Bow Revenger into the Swordbreaker Angels, then you do Aura Geyser to kill the Swordbreaker Angels so they're off your board because they're not Revengers. So now they're off your board. And that's 2 cards that you get out of those 2 cards, out of 2 Counterblasts, 3 Soul Blasts, hitting with Judge Bow, which, you know, always will. And then the next turn, using Aura Geyser, you're getting, what, yeah, 4 cards out of them. There it is. 4 cards out of them. Except there is one problem. This deck wants to go first. That's one thing, because you want to get on a Mordred, hit with Judge Bow, get out your Swordbreakers, and then next turn go into Aura Geyser. If you go second, go into Aura Geyser, and well, there you go. You don't have any Phantoms prior to grade 3. So you ride grade 3, you stride into Aura Geyser, and now things are a little... So you do want to go first with this deck. It does work better going first. Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Choose face down card from your G-Zone. Name Supremacy Black Dragon Aura Geyser Dragon. Turn it face up. Choose 2 of your rear guards and retire them. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost you do. Reveal 2 cards on top of your deck. And for each grade 1 or less card revealed, gains 5k until end of turn. You put the 2 cards in your hand. He gains 2 cards, then you triple drive, gaining 5 cards total. For the cost of retiring to Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, and G Persona Blast. Dark Dragon Phantom Blaster Diablo. I thought I was going to remember his name, and that's why there was a pause there. But I didn't. Oh well. Dark Dragon Phantom Blaster Diablo was the bane of a lot of people's existence for a little while. 2 years ago? 2016? Yeah, prior to G-Guards coming out. When the Ren Legend deck came out, it was a problem for a time. Once per turn, Counterblast 1 and choose a face down card named Dark Dragon Phantom Blaster Diablo from your G-Zone and turn it face up. If the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 2 or more until end of turn, this unit gains 10k and 1 crit and auto. Choose 3 of your rear guards and retire them. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, you may pay the cost to do. Your opponent may choose 2 of his rear guards and retire them. If they do not, they cannot call cards from hand. A Guardian Circle used to be a way more deadly. Now it's, if they got the G-Guards in hand, then, you know, it's not. But this is a big thing about board control, because then you've got Ternion and Abyss, so what you're trying to do is get them to clear their board. Hopefully they don't re-establish. You can drop a Blaster Dark Revenger or something, Abyss, and retire them, retire one of their grade 1s, using him to just clear their board. Then next turn, focusing with Ternon and your Break Ride Legion turn, you could maybe restrict them again. If they only have 1 rear guard, they got to sack it on that first attack to guard, or they take the first attack, and, you know, hopefully they've lost at that point. First stride, second stride, break ride on third turn, or go first stride, break ride, and go into that. Ride in Legion again, you know, do things. This deck is fun, and that is easily the #1 most important thing about it, is it is just fun. Revengers aren't super competitive. They're really fun right now. I'm Joey. It's Cardfight Crazy. Hope you're crazy too.